Oh God, no, 100, 200 episodes in almost.
Oh, wow.
Welcome back to a second episode of Paranormal Good Normal tonight. I am so happy we'll do two recordings in one night once again, because I love talking about all this stuff in this world. And I'm your host, Jeremy, as already, if you don't know. And I'm here once again to try to bring some normalcy to this paranormal world we live in. Does it ever happen? That's a negative, NASA. But we try, and that's all that matters. And of course, I brought a guest with me to help me try. And my guest tonight is Peter Young. He is an author and a cult survivor. My first ever one on this show, which, as a paranormal show, with almost 160, 70 episodes released, that's kind of sad, but we're making up for it now. So enough of your whining about it. Peter, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It truly is a pleasure. And the first question I ask everybody on this show is, what led you to this road of paranormal, supernatural, spiritual weirdness that we call Earth, where you're willing to be on a show like this?
Well, I would say I probably would key on that one word you said, weirdness. Certainly a very spiritual person, Christianity, it's my life. But what I went through, kind of in and out of a tiny little destructive religious cult was very weird.
I'm sure, and we'll get to it all in a minute. I have no doubt on that one. But second question I ask everybody on the show before we get to that is, have you had any experiences with anything in the supernatural world, whether it be ghosts, spirits, or extraterrestrials, or cryptids? I mean, take your pick. There's a lot of categories.
Not that I know of. And I always wonder if, like, one day, you have the ability somehow to look back and somebody can say, you did come within 10 feet of whatever ghost or whatever it is, or you did walk, 50 feet away from, this thing that could have fallen on your head and killed you. So who knows? Do I have any recollection of it? No.
Well, as I told you before the show, I don't get disappointed people have no experiences, because I had no experiences myself for a long, long time. And even to this day, I still question the experiences I had. So it's not something that I expect everybody to have in their life. And would it be a much better world if everybody did have those experiences? Oh God, yes. Because then everybody would be open to what's possibly out there more than they are. So, but I didn't have those experiences, so I can't complain. That's for sure. But first question. Well, let's just break it down a little. Well, I don't know if you want to say the name of it, and if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But when did you first fall into this cult that you were in?
Sure. So, I wrote about it and published my memoir earlier this year, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. So I changed everybody's names in the book, most everybody's but mine and the cult guru, Uncle Robert. So I basically married into it, and that was 1997. And, I don't think anybody ever plans to join a cult. That's never, hey, check it off on your list to do today. I'm going to join a cult. Nor do I think most people realize they are in a cult. They don't realize it until they get out of it. So that was certainly the case for me. I didn't think I was joining a cult. I was getting married.
Of course. I mean, if you're like me, then you view most religions as cults to begin with. So, I mean, the word cult can be used loosely or, more tightly depending on what you're talking about. But, to me, religious organizations are a cult loosely. I don't think any of them are doing blood sacrifices by the moonlight or anything like that, or anything of the sort, or any of the stuff that Charles Manson would do. But they have some cult elements to them, but they're lesser, and it's more of a family for a lot of religions. So I don't hate on them, because even though I am agnostic myself, my listeners all know that, but I just want to make sure you know that I'm agnostic. But I would like to see evidence of something out there so I can believe it's something. That's 100% true. But this cult you're in, where was it located? You don't have to say the exact city. You can say, like, what state was it in, per se?
Well, it was really tiny. So there was, maybe at the most, there was like a dozen adults in it. So Uncle Robert, or Robert Booty, was out of Southern California. And at the time, we lived in Idaho and Montana. And so, most everybody was either in Idaho, Montana, or California. And we would get together a couple times a year.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. My kid just opened the soda. I was very happy about it. But California, Idaho, Montana, which, I mean, California is known for having cults over the years, and Idaho and Montana are in the middle of nowhere, so of course they have cults. Why wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, I guess what my story, I think, illustrates is that it could happen to anybody, and they could be anywhere. And cults look very different. They can come in all shapes and sizes. They can be rather obvious. They can be big. They can be small. But, we didn't look like a cult. So, we didn't shave our heads. We didn't live in a commune. We didn't go walk around town banging a drum. We didn't try and commit suicide. I tell people that we did drink the Kool-Aid, figuratively speaking. Yeah, so, I had a fairly normal life, a normal looking family. I had a career. I was a sports broadcaster. So nobody knew. But see, what cults are at their foundation, at their root, is undue mind control, coercive, manipulative mind control. And that's where they start. And then they, from there, they go. So they can be located anywhere. And I would get back to your point. Certainly I'm not going to try to proselytize to you, Jeremy. But to me, there's a big difference between a cult and culture. And there's a gal that wrote a really good book called Uncultured. Daniela Mestanek, I think let's say it Young, not related, but she was in the cult called The Family, which was horrible. Got out around high school and then moved to America, joined the army. So she escapes one cult. And then she, second or third day of boot camp, she's like, did I just join another cult? And so throughout her book, what she makes the point is that no, she didn't, because there's a difference between, abusive, strong culture that, could be dysfunctional and a cult. They're two different things.
Of course. I mean, and I am no proponent of the military per se. I never wanted to join in my life, but I mean, that's mainly to do with who our presidents were since I was able to vote, but more than anything. But I mean, the military is a great thing, and they're more like a family. I think the difference to me is the military try to bring each other up to the next level so you can perform better and so you can be the better person you are meant to be. Cults try to bring you down so you will listen better and so you will fall into the mindset for a cult, which that's the difference in my mind.
Yeah, I would say you're right there. The idea for a cult is that you have a cult leader, right? Like they all have a cult leader, usually narcissistic, often a male, not always, makes all the rules. None of them apply to him. And it's all about, control. So yeah, it's never a case of, trying to elevate that person. So he's more disciplined, he's more effective, he's, whatever it is. Yeah, it is. You're going to stay underneath my thumb, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to maintain control over you.
Exactly. If you think you have any freedom, you're wrong. Your freedom is taken away. You just don't realize it. We're going to manipulate you in certain ways so that you do not think even anymore. You just are what you just exist, and you listen to every word we tell you when you're going to do that. Otherwise, there could be dire consequences. We're not going to tell you what the consequences could be, but you're going to hear rumors about it from other cult members about people who disappeared and they don't know what happened. And that's kind of like the bottom of it. And we actually have a comment. Apparently, Josh ran from Scientology when they tried to recruit him in the 90s. Good for you, Josh. I am against Scientology 100% as a paranormal podcaster. Using in Clearwater, Florida, apparently. Oof. Florida, that's a whole nother conversation we're not going to do. But
it's interesting, Jeremy, if I can comment on his comments, I appreciate it.
Please.
There's a guy named Stephen Hassan who wrote a really good book. It's kind of groundbreaking. It's called Combating Cult Mind Control. He was in the Moonies. So remember I think Sung Young Moon or whatever his name was. He was the cult leader. And I think Hassan joined like in the 70s, maybe early 80s. So he wrote a book and then he did like a relaunch of his book a couple years ago. And he said the biggest difference between then and now is the rise of all these tiny mini cults. So Scientology is a pretty big cult, obviously, and seems like they do try and recruit. We never did. So we were never out trying to recruit other members. We were always very small, kind of circled the wagons around Uncle Robert. We weren't trying to promote his ideas. We were trying to hide him and hide his ideas, which obviously is a huge red flag, right? Like we were taught that, Uncle Robert knew the true gospel of Jesus Christ. Like we were the real Christians. Everybody else was just kind of the frauds. so to speak. And so he only knew the truth. Well, if that was the case, then why didn't we share it? Why didn't we like constantly promote Uncle Robert to other churches and go have people join us? We never did. We did the exact opposite.
Because he knew
we're very different from other cults.
He knew what he was doing. He knew that if you tried to go out and spread his word, that people were going to be like, "Are you sure you're in a place you should be right now?" Like people were going to try to talk you out of it if you went out in the world and try to expand upon it. And that's the thing with small cults. Not like big cults will try to recruit because they have people that are making their stuff look legit. And exactly, Josh, like David Koresh, like not Marilyn Manson, like Charles Manson. I love Marilyn Manson. Sorry, Marilyn. But like Charles Manson, like all the other cult leaders out there, whoever's in charge of Scientology, I forget his name. Even Joseph Smith, if you want to go back in time to like the FLDS beginning, where I was thinking about Joseph Smith when you were talking about that, because it's another person who thought they had God's word and no one else could know it with his talking to angels and his tablets and everything and his lucky underwear. But don't get me started on the Mormons. We did a cult bracket on this show a while ago, and the Mormons won it because they are one of the biggest cults in history. And that guy in San Diego, Josh, says, there's a lot of them. I don't know which one you're talking about, Josh, but there's a lot of them out there in California that have tried to start cults over the years.
An important point to make too, when you were talking about, I haven't studied David Koresh very much, but I can almost guarantee you that when David Koresh was, gathering his followers, he, like other cult leaders, did not just start spouting nonsense and lies. Like nobody says, "Oh, that guy's an idiot, I'll follow him." No, they start off by luring you in with stuff that sounds great. It sounds very factual. And that was certainly with our case. Uncle Robert would read to us from the Bible. And by the way, he wasn't related to us. That's what we all called him. But then he would twist it over the years, right? And so then over time, it becomes nothing close to the truth. But at the start, that's how you get lured in.
Of course. If they spout nonsense in the beginning, everybody's going to walk away and be like, okay, this guy is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and we're not going to follow him or her. But and yes, there are plenty of cults out there started by females. If you want to know more about that, let's do our cult bracket. I'll say that right now because there are plenty out there started by females, and they can be as sadistic as men can be. So if they give them the opportunity and they have that mindset, but I'm not going to say everybody's sadistic because they're not. But it's funny. Me and my wife, the first house we almost bought before we bought ours now, was on 9 acres of land, and she jokingly said, "What are we going to do with 9 acres of land?" I was like, "Start a cult." But obviously, I never would do that because I don't have that. I don't have that personality to do that. Like it's just not my style. I don't want to be around people like that. I just want to be my own person and do my own thing with my family. But cults can start anywhere around the world. We've proved that with the 36 or so we went through. It's insane. It really is how these cults get started and how people just want to. I understand, like Josh said, people are vulnerable, people are desperate, and they will look for, even if you're not vulnerable and desperate, you may be looking for a better life, and this person may seem, especially if they're quoting the Bible or something, to give a better life at that moment because they know God, they know the Bible, and okay, maybe they can lead me down the right path and lead me to redemption. But maybe not. Maybe they're just dangerous and they want to start something, and that's not going to end well. We all know how Waco, Texas went, but that's the worst outcome possible. There have been plenty of cults that just started and fade over time too because they just never went anywhere. And like you said, you weren't shaving your heads, you weren't wearing like bubble wrap and waiting for the UFO to come and take you all upon the day of apocalypse and all that. So, it wasn't obvious signs like you said.
Well, and for me, I joined. I hate to say the word join. I didn't join anything. I was in love with a woman. I married her, and I kind of unwittingly married into it. So I went along to get along, for many years. So we were together about 20 years, and she left me so she could draw closer to this guy, Uncle Robert. But for many years, I kind of thought this guy, I would be happy to see him go. I kind of thought he was wacky, like you said, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? But so it was a very slow erosion for me to where. There's probably about 2 or 3 years that I was brainwashed. I was all in. And it took me a year to get out.
Thankfully, that's all it took. Some people it takes a decade to get out before they realize it.
Yeah.
I forget the one. I forget her name, but the one actress from Smallville who was in a cult for a long time, where they actually branded you and everything. Like she was in it for a good 5-6 years before she got out, and she ended up in prison because of it because she helped get other people into it.
That's
Which
the Nexium cult.
Nexium, yeah, that's it. There are so many cults out there that I get them confused. It's just like if you actually look into cults, and I've talked about possibly doing episodes solely about a certain cult and by myself, and educate people, but it'll come eventually, maybe. But yeah, there's so many out there that I get confused. And as Josh says, thank God you woke up and saw the light, basically. And ironic as that is to say, because it was a religious cult, but you saw the light and you saw that religion's a good thing, but this man is not preaching the right religion.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I always kind of say it's the 3 F's. It was my faith, my family, and my friends. And so we kind of kept it all hidden, right? So when my wife left me, it was 4 months before I told anybody in my family. So like, my brothers, their wives, nieces and nephews, my parents were still alive. Nobody knew. They kind of knew about Uncle Robert, but they had no idea what was really going on. And so then I would start sharing with them these emails and letters that I was getting from Paige, my former wife, and Uncle Robert. And they were just horrible and abusive, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally abusive. And I was just kind of so used to it that I didn't see how bad they were, but my friends and family did right away. So cults operate or maintain control 3 ways: through secrecy, paranoia, and isolation. And so I was isolated. We kept everything secret. And of course, Uncle Robert ratcheted up the paranoia because he said the Jews are trying to take over the world and lots of other ideas. World War III is coming, Armageddon, et cetera, et cetera. So we were paranoid. But then as I finally brought people back into my life, like, friends from high school and college and my family that I'd kind of shoved away just so I could focus on Uncle Robert, and stay in his good graces. Then as they came back and supported me and loved me, the Lord really opened my eyes and ears. And I didn't want to, Jeremy, I didn't want to, first of all, I didn't want to get divorced. I loved my wife, but I also didn't want to say, we were in a cult. I thought, no, come on, we're not in a cult. Well, about a year later, after reading that book by Stephen Hassan and having my eyes and ears open, it was a cult. I mean, you can't deny it. It was a cult.
So, just want to get a little bit more of a grasp of what life was like in this cult. Did you guys all live in like a small compound, or were you all spread out?
No, we were spread out. So again, Uncle Robert lived in Southern California. Paige and I lived in Southeast Idaho. Her parents were in Northern Idaho. And then, we eventually moved to Montana to kind of be closer to them. So we would, again, only really meet a few times a year with Uncle Robert, but we were always on the phone to him, cell phone or emails. There were times where I would call him almost every day. My former wife would talk to him 6 days a week, for a long period of time. And then my in-laws both talked to him a lot. So, there was no physical abuse, no sexual abuse, no violence, nothing like that. There was no infidelity and all that. I for years thought I had a great marriage, but over time it became obvious there was a problem, and the problem was Uncle Robert. So again, we didn't look like it, or what many people might think is a cult, but we were.
Yeah, which, I mean, thank God you didn't have to deal with any of that stuff, the abuse or the infidelity or anything, because that's, right. I mean, that's the horrible part of a lot of cults is the fact that stuff happens. But
yep.
So did the cult meet up like once or twice a year or something like that, and like in mass, and like have like yearly meetings or something to try to promote his message?
Yeah, we would call them conferences. So if you and I, we might go, you could have a Bible study, or you could just sit down and a couple of guys get together over a cup of coffee or whatever it is, have a meeting. We called them conferences, which basically, spending a couple of days at my in-laws' house in Northern Idaho. And we would sit and listen to Uncle Robert talk for Robert Booty for hours and hours and hours a day. And again, some of it was, in the first few years, we're like, wow, that's really brilliant. And, he really opened up my eyes and ears a lot to the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, economics, limited government. It's good stuff. But then, he would just twist and twist and twist the word of God till it was his word, not the word of God. And it was just bizarre. And anything that would have been inappropriate for you, Jeremy, or anybody else to, let's say in front of me or my wife or my kids, or I'd be like, wait a minute, stop, right? We got kids here. Don't say that. That was never the case with Uncle Robert. There was nothing he could do that was inappropriate. He could say pretty much whatever he wanted to because he was the leader. You're not supposed to question the cult leader.
I mean, exactly. That's the way they get you thinking, is that you're not supposed to question them because they are, for lack of words, they're your God. They're your God at on a more smaller scale. Like they supposedly have a direct line to God, and they know exactly what God wants you to do, which they don't. But I mean, they're going to make you think that. And if there is a God, which I know you believe there is, and I would like to see proof there is one. I'm not going to lie. I would totally like to see proof there is one. My wife believes, I don't. I'd like to see proof. I'm a scientific person. I want to see the proof. That's just me. I don't hate anybody that believes. That's my theory. I'm agnostic, but I'm not an atheist. I want to believe. So, what about Christianity finally got you out of this, and what made you see the light?
Good question. Well, probably the most wicked thing that Robert Booty would do was that he would, you talked about these people being their God. The way I would rephrase it was he would act as the gatekeeper to God, right? Like you could not really have a relationship with Jesus without Uncle Robert. You have to go through Uncle Robert Booty first. So he acted as a gatekeeper to God.
He was the St. Peter on earth, basically.
I guess, but what Uncle Robert would try and do was unbiblical. So it was wicked. There was nothing good about it because it's totally unbiblical. Like what he would try and do is just, you can't justify it. So, and again, that's kind of a common trait for cult leaders. Whatever religion you ascribe to, you could be Buddhist or Muslim, whatever it is, Jewish, they will try and act as a gatekeeper to God. And so that's what he did. So I grew up in a Christian home, and I knew that I was a sinner. I knew that I needed to be saved, believed in God, believed in Jesus. And then, just kind of lived my life with the understanding that I was. But then, let's say maybe 15 years into the marriage, he was able to, after, again, 15 years of getting beaten up by him and my former wife, that, you must not be saved. I kind of allowed myself to be convinced of that. And then, when my wife left me, she started to tell the kids that I was the devil. Uncle Robert totally backed her up. You are
of course
controlled by a legion of demons. You are Satan, the sorcerer. For a while, I'm believing it. But again, in the Christian world, they talk about the body of Christ. So it's obviously a metaphor, which is basically the body of believers as a whole, right? And I had been largely cut off. So imagine, if you cut off this finger here, the finger will die, but I'm not going to die. Well, when you get cut off from the body of Christ like we were, well, then you kind of atrophy, you die. So then I got reconnected. Other people helped me see that, Peter, this guy's way off base. He's wicked. And so the Lord used those people in my life to help me finally see.
Exactly. And as Josh has been commenting, I haven't bring it up, but you were under his spell, he said. And he said, I'm on the fence too when I was talking about my beliefs. But I thank you, Josh. I mean, there's a lot of us on the fence at this point. I mean, the world's in a crazy place right now with all the smoke from Canada and stuff and everything else happening in the world. We're just in a crazy place right now. Ukraine, Russia, take your pick. I mean, the world's a crazy place right now. And we all want something to believe in, but we just can't see it. And whether that's a fault of our own or a fault of some higher being, I don't know. But we can't see it. And I feel like if there was, he would show us something. I might be missing the sign completely. He might be showing us. I don't know. I just don't. And I can't. Like I said, all episode, and I'm not going to keep doing that because that's just going to be a boring episode if I do that. And Josh said, the kid, so sad, and the kids, oh my God, the kids, which, how did it affect the kids? That's kind of something I wanted to ask. Because being an adult in a cult is one thing, but being kids in a cult is a whole nother story in the world.
Well, when she left, about a year later, we got a guardian ad litem involved because she then filed for divorce. She did a jaw-dropping 50-page report, and in it she noted the cult influence on the kids, which is considered emotional abuse. Yes. Cult influence on kids, and it is. So it was very hard that, they believed their mom and their grandparents. So Dad, you're the devil. I had one kid say, well, Dad, gee, if I was a devil, I'd want someone to tell me so I could change. So they believed it all. And worse than that, Robert Booty had a really perverse ability to inculcate his followers with hatred. I mean, he just had a astonishing level or capacity for hatred and anger. So that went straight into, Paige, my former wife, and then right into my kids. So they were just getting saturated with this hatred, which is just a horrible way to live. And so, they recovered. They came to live with me, the three youngest, and slowly but surely, they came around to see. So when you say not seeing signs, I believe I see signs every day that the Lord is real and he's working in our lives. The father of 5 kids, like, I don't know how you can watch a child being born and think that all of that was just random, that there's not a God. That to me is impossible when you watch a child being born. So to me, there's signs every day. We just got to be looking for them.
I mean, I agree. I mean, a childbirth is a miraculous thing. I mean, I tend to put it more to science than religion, but because but that's a whole nother debate. I mean, whether we were put here by extraterrestrials or whether we were just evolved or whether a great creator did put us here, either of those 3 options, childbirth is still a miraculous thing, and it happens. I mean, our bodies the female body is built for it, but it's just a miraculous thing still that we can literally push something the size of a watermelon out of us. And I mean, there's been a man that gave birth now, supposedly, so I don't freaking know anymore. Like, that's just, yeah, I don't know what to think anymore. Like, it's just, I mean, as a man, I can't imagine that because there's only one hole it's coming out of, and God help you. or you're getting cut open. But either way, God help you. But I don't know. Childbirth is a miraculous thing. I only have stepkids, so I haven't been able to see a child of my own being born yet. So someday I hopefully see that. But I mean, it'll be a C-section, but hopefully I'll still see that because the fact that a person can grow another human being inside them is just beautiful and miraculous. But
it is a miracle. Yeah.
Why we can do that, I don't know. Like I said, there are 3 different options in my mind of why that could happen. And I've always been a scientific person, so I tend to lean towards evolution because we had to be able to do that. Otherwise, our species wouldn't survive. Same as any animal needs to be able to give birth to survive. So, and live longer than that, just one generation's life. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely, you'll never hear me say like religion is bullshit or anything like that. I don't believe that. I believe people need to believe what they want to believe in order to be their best selves. That's what I believe. And to me, that's just the way it goes. And I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. But for this conversation, let me get back on topic here a little bit. What are some signs that you would tell someone like to look out for if they thought they were in a cult?
Yeah, another good question, Jeremy. So, probably the biggest red flag, which again doesn't mean you're in a cult, but it's really not as a red flag, is when somebody, kind of cuts off all of their traditional or longstanding relationships. So, that could be going to church, Bible study, it could be Friday night bowling league, right? It could be cards and beers on the weekend with the guys, whatever it is, where all of a sudden this person, there's no more letters, no more emails, no more phone calls, no more showing up, and they've kind of cut off all of their friends. Okay, that's a huge red flag. And then number 2 would be, now all of a sudden this person's talking so much about this one other person, pastor, guru, whoever it is. This person can do no wrong. And now, all of the praise and adulation, all the good things that this person says goes towards that one person, and you can't question that person. That's another red flag. And if it gets to that point, then that person probably is going to start isolating him or herself pretty soon thereafter. Again, doesn't mean you're in a cult, but they're red flags.
See, that right there is why nobody would ever know if I was in a cult, because I have no friends. I have no life outside of working, coming home. Before I had my wife and kids, nobody would have realized I was in a cult. Maybe my mother, but no one believed her anyway. So, but it could have happened. Oh God, yeah. In my younger days, I could have been susceptible to so many different people tell me they know how to fix my life. But now, no, it couldn't happen now. If you're going to convince me to leave my wife and kids now, you'd have to be the greatest linguist in the world. Like, you'd have to really you'd have to be something else. And I don't think that person's going to come along. So that's my
good.
I mean, it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't want to do my wife and kids. I love my wife and kids, but it's just, My younger me, a younger me wanted to join cults or something or do something to be different because it's just, that teenage 20-something-year-old angst is a vulnerable point in people's lives, and you can be taken advantage of in that point in your life a lot. But luckily, where I grew up in New York and then Massachusetts, there was nothing going on like that people were trying to get me involved in. So, yay! But I mean, I don't know, but you say in one of your books that you never know you are in a cult. You only know you were in one.
Yep.
So what does that translate to in basic talk, basically? Like,
Sure.
what's the metaphor for that, basically?
Well, like I said, cults are mostly at their foundation about mind control, right? So in other words, like you can't control somebody to shave their head, commit suicide, whatever it is, right? Do something really weird or bad without controlling their mind first, right? You're not going to control somebody the rest of their body to do something awful unless you control up here. So they're about mind control. So again, nobody specifically or on purposely will join a cult. So you only know that you were in a cult once you've left. In other words, like if you're in the cult and you and I, Jeremy, are in the cult of whatever, right? The cult of Massachusetts, whatever it is, the cult of your garage. And you and I say to each other, you know what, we're in a cult. Well, the moment we say that and realize we're in a cult, the mind control has now started to dissipate.
Yep.
Because we know there's a problem. So that's why I say that. Because when you're in it and your mind is controlled, you don't think it's a cult. No, come on.
No.
I was the same way. It's not a cult. And when you get out, you're like, oop, as it was.
I mean, a couple things there. But, I mean, if Massachusetts had a cult, it would be wicked. And it would also just be, states can't have like a statewide cult. That would be too noticeable by the government, and the government would hop in immediately and be like, what are you doing? I don't trust you. And Josh says he was very lucky to escape Scientology, I assume, that he had to leave everything behind and run north, and he never joined, but they were extremely harassing, which I've heard that about Scientology because of Leah Remini, or however you say her name, because she put all those documentaries about Scientology and really exposed it. And I mean, look what they did to John Travolta, for God's sake. So there you go, people. But I mean, to me, it's just, I don't know. One, a cult that asked me to shave my beard, you ain't getting me in. I'm sorry. Ain't nothing making me shave my beard. But I'll join the Amish before I join a cult for that reason, because they respect beards. But I mean, some people may say they're a cult as well, but I mean, I find them more of a religion, less of a cult. But I just don't know. I mean, joining a cult in younger days, it seems like something that might be a good idea, because it's somewhere, especially if you have no friends, especially if you have nobody to really talk to. They can get to you, because it seems like someplace you could belong, someplace you could have people who want to listen to what you say. And that's where people come into it. It's usually people who you usually join. I mean, you join through marriage, that's a little different story. But people who usually join in their own free will are just loners who have nobody, and they find a group that loves them. And it seems like everybody in that group loves them 100%, and they can rely on those people, and they can talk to those people about anything and not get judged. So, I mean, it's just, I can see where people would be inclined to join cults when they're younger, but eventually we all mature and realize that's not, you don't look for friends just because they're friends. You need friends who actually have substance and want to help you, and not just get you involved in something that you shouldn't be involved in, which that's my my PSA for today. I will let that go at that point. But your book, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. I kind of want to talk about that.
There we go.
Which I have been a fan of Tiger since I was a kid, so I love that fucking cover. I do. But what are the lessons you talk about in that book that you learned and that you discussed in that book in detail?
Yeah. Okay. So there's three things, again, largely for the Christian audience, but again, to me, it's applicable for everybody. Number one, if you want to have a strong marriage, you should not have anybody in between the husband and wife. People from the outside could help in, and they should, to try and edify you and encourage you, stay in your marriage, grow your marriage. But no pastor, priest, parent, child, or certainly family guru should get in between the husband and the wife. Number two, like I talked about earlier, when you isolate yourself, and you are very secretive and you have kind of cut yourself off, that's when you are more vulnerable to fall prey to a cult leader, someone who is, narcissistic. So it's very important to maintain friendship, which of course, with COVID-19, people started spending more and more time alone, which can be dangerous. And then number 3, again, for the Christian audience, is kind of a bedrock principle of Christianity is that salvation is a free gift, right? You can't earn it. Okay, so cult leaders will often try and switch the order of salvation and sanctification. So salvation, you get saved. Sanctification is where you grow in your faith. Well, if it's a free gift, you shouldn't have to grow in your faith before that point. Well, that's what Uncle Robert would do, and that's how he acted as the gatekeeper to God. In other words, well, you got to grow in your faith before you can be saved, and I'll help you do it. I.e., you can't get saved without me, and that, of course, is wicked.
Which that brings upon dependency, and once you're dependent on somebody, it's hard to break that cycle. So,
Yep.
I mean, whether it be marriage or anything like that, it's just hard to break that cycle once you're dependent on somebody. And I mean, I still to this day have no real friends. I mean, besides podcast family, which, don't get me wrong, my pod family is my closest friends, and I would give anything in the world to help them or to do anything they need help with. But I also know none of them are in cults or trying to get me into anything. They'll never try to persuade me to do something. They may offer advice, but they're never going to try to persuade me, and that's the difference. If someone you love is in a cult, they'll try to persuade you to their way of thinking, and you can't convince them otherwise, and that's a red flag right there in itself. I mean,
well, the biggest red flag, Jeremy, I would say is, like, if I can interject, it's okay if people are, very enthusiastic and are encouraging you to believe in X, Y, and Z. The problem is when you ask good questions and they don't like questions. The truth does not mind being questioned, right?
Exactly.
It's okay if somebody believes strongly in what they believe in.
I mean, you could, it's the difference between religion and cults. You can believe 100% in a religion, and I'm not going to question you on it. I really am not, because it's your belief, and you know what? If it does for you what makes you happy, then great for you. I can respect that. Just don't. If you're going to try to convince me every day and every hour you're with me to be in that, then that's a bad sign. Like, and there are religious people like that who are going to try to convince you every day and every hour to be part of their religion, because they exist, but it doesn't mean they're in a cult. It just means they truly believe in what they believe, and that's okay. You can do that. I truly believe aliens exist. Am I going to sit there trying to convince other people of it every day? No, because I'd be wasting my time, because either you believe or you don't believe. That's just simple enough. And those are the type of, that's the same thing. The same thing goes with religion. It's a good metaphor, honestly, in my opinion. Whether it be aliens, Bigfoot, take your pick. Like, if you either believe or you don't believe. And Josh said, like, Jeremy, don't join. You're the best. I thank you, buddy. I thank you. Don't worry. I ain't going nowhere. I'm not joining no cult. The only cult I join is the cult of the paranormal, the new normal. And trust me, I'm not trying to get you guys to do anything weird. I'm just trying to open your minds to different things in the world. And this is a conversation that need to be had. Yeah, I agree. It did. Because I've been waiting for a long time to have this conversation with somebody, and I'm very happy that Peter came on to have this conversation with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Jeremy. Now,
your first book you wrote, The Blue Team.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there's a football on the cover, right?
A basketball.
I knew it was some sports. I'm not a sports fan in any degree, but I knew it was some kind of sports.
Yeah.
So, in that book, I got to ask, what are the lessons in that book that are different than your second book?
Okay, sure. So The Blue Team is a novel about faith in basketball. It's very loosely based on my life. I always tell people it's a novel because the main character and the team, the basketball team, are good at basketball, and I wasn't, but I did play basketball in college. So the idea is that a basketball, or any athlete or anybody in life, but the basketball player's greatest adversary is not the guy trying to block a shot, or the teammate who won't pass on the ball, or the coach who won't start him.
It's himself.
Basketball, it's his own mind. We are our own worst enemy. The Christian application is when the Lord saves us, he saves us from ourselves, from our own mind, thinking we're God, right? So because you're a Christian athlete doesn't mean you're going to, make the game-winning shot. You might miss it, but if you miss it, life still goes on, right? your identity is in something greater than yourself, than in your next game. So it enables you to play for the love of the sport. That's kind of the story within the story.
Interesting. And I mean, even as someone who's not into sports, I've seen enough. I mean, it's funny you say that because I actually played basketball as a elementary school, middle school type thing, and I sucked at it. I was just I was the tall kid who was fat, who played the center just to knock their people down and to take the ball. That was my point in life. And if I get a 3-shot here and there, that's great. But it's not going to happen that often. And I was basically just there to be the bumper between people trying to get to the hoop. But I get that. And I mean, I stopped playing basketball for like 5 years because I was just like, I'm not going anywhere with this. And I'm sick of running back and forth down a court and practicing and running for practice. Like, no, I'm a fat kid. I don't want to do this crap. That was basically me. But you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, like we both said, it's yourself. Like your biggest. My biggest enemy my whole life has been myself. Like what my brain is telling me is not always true, because people try to make me think my whole life that I was a loser, I'm not worthy of anything, and that I'm weird, and I had to overcome that. It took years and decades, but I overcame it eventually, and I found a woman who loves me and was willing to let me help her raise her kid. So
great.
I found my way in life because of that, and I always knew it would be kids eventually, whether mine or somebody else's. I always knew it would be kids, and that's why I didn't turn away when I met a woman with kids, because a lot of guys would. But it's just, I saw my path and I took it. And whether that's God's path or whether that's something else, I don't know. But you know what? I'm happy with it, and I'm not going to question why it's there. I think that's the most important thing in life, is you don't question the path you're meant to go on. And Josh, I agree with you. I don't butt heads with people who clearly are on their own path either. They don't rely on mine. I just let them go on their own path. And if I don't think it's something I can associate with, I'm not going to associate with it. But I'm not going to argue with them, whether it be in person or online in any way. And dude, Josh, thank you. You want to call me amazing? I freaking love you, dude. But thank you. But back to the topic at hand. So, what made you want to write the second book, though? If you're getting why did your message change between the first and second book, like a little bit? Like, what made you want to write the second book?
Yeah, well, I wrote the first book, my novel, The Blue Team, while I was still in, the cult, and thank God I didn't ruin it. In fact, actually, after I got out, I kind of went back and cleaned it up and republished it about 2 years later. Kind of tried to take away some of the little Uncle Robert phrases from the book. But again, when cults maintain control over people like they did me, it's through secrecy and isolation. And so I was quiet for so many years. And so my story, I believe, is an important one, and it's a cautionary tale that it could happen to anybody. And if you read my book, it's intense. I mean, people either can't put it down or they have to, because it's, you need to take a break, because it's very intense what happened to me. It's difficult to read at times. It does have a positive ending. But I wanted to get the story out there. Like, I didn't really want to share my life all that much, but I thought, I need to tell this story. And it's an important story to hear.
It is, because I mean, in this day and age, especially in this day and age with the internet, there are so many cults out there. Even on the internet alone, like, you may never meet these people in person, but on the internet, you may be in a cult. Like, and you might not even realize it because it's just a chat group or something. But if there's someone in that chat group that's leading it, that's trying to lead you down a path where you think that they're the smartest person in the room, or that they're brilliant and need to be listened to, they may be trying to lead you down a dark path. I mean, they may not be. They may just be a nice person trying to help you. But I don't trust anybody who thinks that they know everything, and nobody should. I mean, nobody is perfect. That's the bottom line here. Is nobody is perfect, whether it be in the eyes of a God or just in general. Nobody is perfect. I mean, everybody has flaws. Everybody has mistakes.
There you go, Jeremy. I agree with you. I mean, to me, you are well on your way, because you have exhibited throughout this interview a humility that, hey, I don't have all the answers, and that you're not perfect. That's why we need a savior. I'm not perfect either. Still not.
Ask my wife. I'm not perfect by any means. But I mean, ask my kids. I mean, they're 6 and 9, but they'll tell you I'm not perfect, and that's perfectly okay. And no, Josh, you're going to get me canceled. But yeah, a lot don't even realize it. And or a former president. Yeah, don't get me started on the president. So, oops, yeah, oops is right. And trust me, man, I've been around for almost 200 interviews at this point. I'm not going anywhere. My purpose in life is, as I've been told by mediums and psychics, is to get people's messages out there and get them to the world. And over 3,000 plays can't be wrong. So thank you all. Thank you to all my listeners and watchers. I truly appreciate it. But let's go on a little bit of a happier topic. That's sports broadcasting. I mean, that's an amazing, interesting career to have. Because did you ever get to meet any big names in sports, or like get to interview them or anything like that?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I met some people that, if you're a diehard sports fans, you would know, but, I never interviewed, Michael Jordan or anybody like that. But, I was on network TV, traveled the world, got to cover great events. I mean, I used to tell people, listen, I got paid to sit at a game for free, like at the half court line, to talk, and they paid me to do that. Like, what a great living.
I mean, for anybody who loves sports, I mean, it wouldn't be me by any means, because I couldn't tell you who the hell is playing basketball or baseball nowadays. I mean, when I was a kid, I could tell you who was on the Yankees or like some of the famous basketball players or football players. But I mean, nowadays, all the people I know are retired nowadays and stepped away from it all, or they're broadcasters. So I mean, but being a broadcaster, you ever get to? I mean, okay, Michael Jordan was going to be my first freaking name I threw out there. Like, did you get to meet him? But because I mean, as a kid in the '90s. And with Space Jam and all that, and the Bulls in '96, like Michael Jordan was my hero. But did you ever get to meet, say, John Madden or any famous broadcasters?
Yeah, let's see. I think I got to meet Al Michaels.
I know that name.
I was just kind of in the booth at a Monday Night Football game. I wasn't working; I was just kind of helping out when I was much younger. And then Frank Gifford, I remember meeting Frank again at the same time. I was a young kid just helping out. I think, if you have any rodeo fans, I called a bull riding event with Ty Murray. I called Ty the Michael Jordan of bull riding. So he was kind of a famous cowboy. But in terms of like football and basketball, a lot of guys that, might have played in the NBA and good NBA players, but unless you really follow the sport, nobody that famous.
Well, I mean, I actually had a former guest in the show, Melissa Bryan, who is a psychic and a descendant of Billy the Kid. She actually is into bull riding. So, Melissa, if you hear this, shout out to you. And you might know who Ty Murray is. I can't say I do because I never followed rodeo in my life. I mean, the only rodeo I know is from King of the Hill. But still, I mean, it's just me. I didn't live out in that part of the United States where that was a thing even. So, but I mean, did you get to meet Tom Brady? I'm in Massachusetts. If I don't ask that, people are going to crucify me.
And I was a Brady fan actually because my parents had retired to Cape Cod for a few years. Then they've since moved, but I was never a Patriot fan growing up ever. But then when they moved to Cape Cod, my dad started following them, and then they got really good, and I kind of jumped on the bandwagon. So, but no, never did the NFL. So I did college football. I'm trying to think if I called anybody that played for the Patriots. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, that was a shot in the dark to begin with. But what part of Cape Cod? Because I actually worked in the Cape a lot in the last couple of years, so I'm kind of curious about what area.
They were just over the bridge on East Sandwich.
Oh, I know Sandwich. Okay, I was in retail, so I was all over Cape Cod in different stores and whatnot. So even though now I live in the the northwest central Massachusetts, like. I used to drive down the Cape once in a while and do jobs down there for like a day, and it was fun to go down there. But then the traffic going home sucked always. But all right, well, you say in one of your books though that sports is the perfect metaphor for life, which I think I know where you're going with that, but I kind of want to hear your explanation for it.
Sure, to me, we use sports in our language all the time, right? Like, I mean, if you did something well, you'd be like, "Wow, I hit a home run," I asked a girl out for a date and I didn't get the date. What did you do? You struck out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we use sports in our language all the time, but also too in terms of sports teaching us about life, hard work, discipline, working with a team, respect for authority, following the rules, setting goals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, well, yeah, we're not even getting to the whole first, second, third base home run metaphor or the I scored metaphor. but that's not the type of show that I do. And as much as I'd like to start one of those shows one day, but it's not the type of show this is. And Josh, thank you. I'm not into sports either, but it's still amazing, and I still can talk to people about it because it's just interesting. And thank you. We appreciate you saying that it's a great show. We really do. We really do, and I appreciate it greatly. But okay, I gotta ask this in our last 5-10 minutes on here. I gotta ask because anybody that's religious, I like to ask these type of questions too.
Mm-hmm.
As a Christian, what is your view on extraterrestrials?
Oh, good question. I have no idea. I mean, I guess like for me, I'm not afraid of hard questions. I'm not afraid to try and defend the truth. And so, to me, the Bible doesn't address it. I have no idea. And nor would it shake my faith. Nor would it shake my faith if there were some.
Let me put it this way, because a lot of people think that the angels coming down in the Bible could have been extraterrestrials. That they didn't know what to call them, so they assumed what they were.
I think much of that language is more figurative and metaphorical than literal, which there's obviously a great divide within the Christian community with that.
Of course.
Much of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, much of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, especially Revelation, is very much figurative language, whereas people try and parse every little word and make it literal. I believe it's already taken place, again, which puts me in the minority of the Christian population.
Whoa, okay. Well, we're going to touch on that in a second. But, there was a huge divide in Christianity between, like, are angels real or are demons real, or are they... I've had astrologers on my show who are Christian, hardcore Christians, and they believe that aliens are demons, and that the reason people get abducted is because they do satanic things or Satanist things, such as listening to heavy metal and stuff like that. So, I mean, this guy was old school, but still, I mean, it's just like, I don't know what to believe. Like, it's just, you have so many people saying that demons and angels are aliens, and other people saying demons and angels are creatures of God, creatures that were created by God and then turned, and creatures of God or whatnot. Like, it's just, there's a huge divide, and I always like to get a religious person's opinion on it because it's just an interesting topic.
Well, I believe that everything that is or was or is made by God. So if God made aliens, then God made aliens. I don't know.
I mean, well, the way I like to think about it too is, and I'm not insulting any extraterrestrials who will be listening to this podcast in the future or now, because I'm sure you're on Earth. But either way, I mean, what if God was trying to create humanity, say, and he did a couple of test runs first with different alien species to see if he can get it, and then he kind of just let them be and went to create a new species. Like, there's a lot of planets out there that could support life. We've proven this. And what if God kind of bounced around the universe and just said, okay, I'm going to do a science experiment on this planet today. And boop, there we go. There's a species created. Like, I'm not trying to be anti-God or anything with the boop thing, but I'm just saying, like, that's how I picture him creating things, just like literally putting a finger down and being like, life. Like, that's just how I picture it. Like, because, I mean, if he's a God, that's all he would have to do. But,
well, I would say, here's how I would answer that. I mean, are there things that have happened outside of the Bible? I don't know. But I do know that it was not a flippant, let's say, experiment to create man, because it's very clear that God created man in his image and loves man. So this was very much done on purpose with loving us as one of the guiding principles. God loves us.
A lot of people would try to say, like, well, what about all the bad things in Earth, like war and genocide? I'm like, okay, he gave us free will, supposedly, so we're on our own. After he creates us, we're on our own, kind of. Like, he's going to watch over us, maybe, but he's going to give us free will and let us do what we want. If we destroy each other, that's our own fucking choice. But, I mean, that's the way I see things, at least. Like, if he did create us, it says right in the Bible. I mean, whether you believe the Bible or not, that's up to you. That's up to everybody listening to this show or watching it. I'm not going to judge you either way, but in the Bible, it straight up says he gave us free will. And that's why Lucifer rebelled, is because he supposedly cared more about humans than he did about his own angels. But that's a whole nother story, and we're not going to get into that tonight. But I'm not trying to debate religion here with anybody. But so I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of negative things in this earth, and yes, we have free will. But I mean, personally, if I was a god, I would try to step in and be like, don't do that. Stop it before you kill each other completely with nukes and stuff. Like, stop it. Like, I would step in somewhere at least. Like, I mean, maybe he is, and it's not being seen. Who knows? I mean, we haven't nuked each other yet, and we've had nukes for 50 years now. So maybe he is stepping in and communicating with people that need to be communicated with, and we just don't see it because it's government people, and they're not going to admit that they heard voices or whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Like, do you think he's communicating with like leaders and stuff to stop them from destroying each other?
Well, I do believe that God is omnipotent. He's in control. Nothing happens that he doesn't see or that surprises him. So then, when there are bad things that go on in the world, yeah, that's a challenge for me. But you know what? I wasn't there when he laid the foundations for the world. So who am I to question him, right? I can try and understand, but I should not be questioning him. Can we hear from God? I think we can. We can communicate. We pray to the Lord. But I even quoted in my book because people will say, well, the Lord told me to do this. The Lord told me to do that. Okay. Well, if the Lord told you to do something and it does not square with the Bible, it is not supported by the Bible, and that wasn't the Lord speaking to you. That whatever dream that was came from something else. It wasn't from the Lord.
I mean, yeah, I can agree with that. Because I mean, all the terrorists who yell Allah before they go and blow up a building with a suicide bomb, like, they can't really be acting in the name of the Lord, because if he created us, why would he want us to kill each other like that? Like, they have to be, whether they're talking to a so-called devil, a so-called demon that's playing tricks on their mind, or whether they're talking to a lot of them are in the Middle East, so let's say they're talking to a jinn, which is a type of demon, supposedly. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities out there for who could be talking to us. And as we all know, the devil's greatest trick, according to the Bible, is to make you think that he doesn't exist.
Yeah, he's the father of lies.
Exactly. I mean, and I personally am a huge fan of Milton's Paradise Lost. Like, to me, it's a very, 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 very depressing, sad story about why Satan fell. And I mean, I can almost agree with some of his arguments. I could see why he would think like that. And do I think any of these things exist off the top of my head? No, not exactly. But I mean, am I open to the possibility they exist? 100%. The possibility is 100% there. I mean, in this world, anything is possible in my mind. I mean, whether we're extraterrestrial born or God born or scientifically born. Like, I mean, do I believe we were fish and we just walked on land one day? I mean, is it possible? Yes. For it to happen, I feel like there had to be something bigger behind the scenes, whether it be extraterrestrial or creator. I don't know. I mean, I'm open to everything. I just need to see proof one way or the other. That's my biggest thing. Like, I mean, I guess my final question here was, is anybody wrong in thinking that they would question God? Like, and not really question God's beliefs, but like just question the fact there is one. Like, is it wrong to think there are other possibilities in your mind?
Oh, well, it's very common. Almost every man probably does that at one point or other in their lives. They question the existence of God. But to me, there is no doubt in my mind. The Bible says that thou shalt have no other gods before me. I'm trying to rack my brain if the Bible actually says do not question God. There are leaders in the Bible that did question God. King David, where are you, Lord? Like, he would cry out to the Lord, right? So it's common for us to do that. But to me, where you stray into dangerous territory is to deny the existence of God, which again, that's what man has been doing throughout recorded history, is to say, well, God does not exist, so therefore I'm God.
I mean, leave it to the Jews at Mount Ararat, where they had the golden calf and they're worshiping it while Moses was up talking to God. Supposedly.
All right, yeah, there you go.
I mean, okay, I was raised Christian, so I was raised Protestant, so I know my Bible. But so that's why I can talk. That's why I can talk about it, because I know my Bible stories damn well enough to talk about them. But I mean, yeah, there's examples in the Bible even of people smiting God's name and thinking that he's not the only one in charge, and they usually paid for it. Especially in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, they definitely paid for it. But in the New Testament, and New Testament's kind of weak until you get to Revelations. But I mean, it's more letters back and forth. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, was there a God? Was there a Jesus? I don't know. I mean, was there a guy named Jesus in the desert? Yeah, 100% probably. But is any of it religious? I don't know. And I can't deny or approve these facts until I have proof of some kind. I mean, and that's the other thing I have is the Vatican. Like, they have all these supposed relics of Christ and relics of God's proof, and yet they don't reveal stuff. Like, that makes me question everything too, because the Vatican, one of my co-hosts of my other podcast says all the time, if the zombie apocalypse happens, he's going to the Vatican first because he wants to read everything in their 5-mile, 10-mile basement. All the books they have that were supposed to go back to the time of Jesus. Which, I mean, tell me you wouldn't like to do the same. But, I mean, even if you're a Christian, you'd want to go see what the hell is out there that can prove even more.
Yep.
I mean, that's just my own personal beliefs, my own personal rant. I haven't had a religious person on in a while, so, I got to go on the rant once in a while. But it's just, I don't know. As agnostic, it basically comes down to, I don't know what to believe. And part of it drives me insane, not knowing what to believe. But I live with it, and I go just day to day and hope that someday I get shown the light, or shown the light is not there. Either way, I mean, I'll be happy. But it's just, I want to know. The answers, like Fox Mulder would say in the X-Files, the truth is out there. I just want to know what it is. So, and I mean,
it is out there. It is there.
It is there. I mean, maybe I'm not looking in the right places. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. And yes, listeners, this episode is kind of a self-reflection episode in some ways, but you know what? We need those some days. So just let it happen. Let it happen. But I want to thank Peter for coming on, because it's been an amazing episode. And I mean, I love that you didn't drop out as soon as I said I'm agnostic and that I was questioning you. Like, I mean, that to me, utmost respect for that, because people who are willing to accept the questions are, whether you want to call them true Christians or whether you just want to just anything else you want to call them. I mean, they believe what they believe, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to hate anybody for that. I'm not going to have anybody come on my show and just say because you're religious, I don't want to talk to you. Like, no, I want to talk to everybody of every religion, and I want to try to find common ground and try to find answers. That's what this purpose of life is to find answers. And you found yours, which is great. I wish I could get there someday. I honestly do. But
it's available
for now, yeah, I know. My mother and my grandfather have been telling me for years before he died. That was his thing, was to try to get me to be religious. But I question things more than he ever did. But that's just me. But Peter, tell them where they can find you. Tell them where they can find your books. Maybe you can make a believer out of a few people.
Yeah, there you go. Sure. All right. Well, it wouldn't be me. I mean, I can't save anybody else. But here's my book. It's Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. It's on Amazon. You can also find the Blue Team. It's on Amazon. And you can also find out a little bit more about me on my website. It's www.authorpeteryoung.com. So, yeah, Jeremy, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And of course, Peter's website will be in the description of this podcast as well for listeners. So if you want to go check him out, go buy his books. Just go to the website in the description and go ahead. And I mean, I would love to read his books personally. I want to read the book of everybody in my podcast, that have written books. And will I ever get that done? Doubtful, but who knows? I mean, maybe. I try. Actually, listeners, a little preview for you. Brandy Alexander, one of my first guests in the show over a year and a half ago, just actually sent me a beta copy of her second book. I mean, it's religious fiction, but her first book was about a kid who can see spirits because his brother died saving him from drowning in ice when he was a kid. And he stops demons trying to take over the world in the first book, which, great book. It's called Genesis, Alliance Destined to Fight Evil or something like that. But I mean, you can find it if you go to her episode. You can find it. But her second book is coming out soonish. I'm one of many beta readers trying to find just plot holes in it or punctuation mistakes, that type of stuff. But once her second book comes out, she will be on the show again to advertise it, I'm sure. I'd love to have Brandy back. She's a great guest. And her first book blew me away. I read it a week after I had surgery last year, and I read it for literally, I was off work for 2 weeks, so I read it within like a couple of days. And her first book, even for an agnostic, not exactly a believer like me, her book spoke mountains to me. And I mean, I like to believe that I like to believe there are things out there like demons and angels and stuff like that. I like to believe it. And I've had people tell me about angels and demons. I can believe it in some form or another. So she will be back on. Just a little preview for listeners. But Peter, it's been a freaking pleasure. We had a great conversation, and I can't wait for listeners to hear this episode in late August, early September, I believe. But we'll see.
Okay.
But until then, your links will be in the description, of course, and I will tag you in it when it comes out, of course, like I do for everybody. And listeners, you know where you can find me. Listen to the outro if you don't know. And if you don't know, then you have about 180 episodes to catch up on. You better start listening. But until next time, it's been a pleasure entertaining you all. And thank you for those who commented and watched. And thank you for those who listened. And like and subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. And Peter, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeremy.